Hello, everybody. Sure, I feel rusty with all these kind of things because I took a break. How are we all this morning? I just want to go close the door. How are we this morning? Jeez. My life wouldn't be my life without me giving you a weather update, right? Let's see. What's the weather doing in Cape Town today? So after another heat wave over, the weekend, it is now nice and cool outside. And it's cloudy, and apparently there's going to be rain later, which would be absolutely amazing balls if there was rain. It just allows me not to water my garden because it so desperately needs it in this crazy heat that we have in Cape Town in summer. Something I have to get used to. I've been here going on 9 years, 8.5 years. And I still can't get used to the fact that in summer there is pretty much no rain. If you live in Joburg, you'll know that pretty much, in summer it's hot during the day. By lunchtime there are thunderstorms and it's rain, and then we can have, a couple of days of rain, and it cools everything down and it's awesome. But not here in Cape Town. If we get rain during summer, it's like, woo! So yeah, it's going to be really awesome if there is substantial rain today. I think when there is rain, sometimes it's just enough to dirty your car windows, right? So anyway, change of plan for today. So the reason for change of plan is that when we go grocery shopping, we go to, if you live in South Africa, we go to the food lovers market, and don't mind this over here. This is a pressure cooker, which I am busy boiling and sterilizing the jars we're going to use. So it's going to probably steam every now and then. So if you hear that, know that it's that. Okay, it was just doing it now. So anyway, we shop at the food lovers market. And sometimes they have these crazy deals where you can buy boxes and boxes of things. My hubby gets on his, I don't know. He gets a bee in his bonnet, and then if he sees like boxes of jalapenos for a really good price, we'll buy that, or we'll buy boxes of tomatoes if it's really cheap, boxes of peaches if it's really cheap, that kind of stuff. So he bought a big box of peaches. They are they're ripe, and if in the heat that we're having, if we don't eat like 2-3 a day, which is really not going to happen, they're going to go off. So instead of letting them go off, I'm going to make peach preserve. Basically, bottled, canned. I'm not going to can it because I can't can it, but I can bottle it. Same thing. So I'm going to make, these are dessert peaches. So I'm going to make a nice bottled peaches, preserved peaches in a nice syrupy sauce. So one of the things is that we have a fig tree, which to this day still has not really fruited, but I think it's coming because it's looking much healthier than it has in the 8.5 years that we've lived in this house. We also have a guava tree, which subsequently 2 years ago decided it was now time to start fruiting, and basically for 2-3 years in a row, the guava tree has been fruiting in abundance to the point that the tree is like sinking. So it's already flowered and the fruits are coming. So by, I'm going to say April, I'm going to have to start harvesting the guavas. There's so many guavas that I am not able to harvest them quick enough. They bring a substantial amount of fruit flies. So this year I'm going to try and be more productive in harvesting the fruit. The problem is that not all the fruit obviously ripens at the same time. So I am basically having to go outside daily and harvest fruit before it hits the ground. Because the minute it hits the ground, then it's going to get fruit flies, and then I have a fruit fly problem. So I'm going to try and harvest them as quick as I can. So basically, daily go pick guavas. Literally, if a guava is not ripe today, it could be ripe tomorrow to be picked. Guavas are green and then turn yellow when they're ripe, but you can actually harvest them when they're in the process of turning. So not when they're fully ripe, you can actually pick them just before that. So what also I do is I harvest all of it. I peel all the guavas. I don't de-seed them, which now apparently when I've tried to sell my guavas, my guava preserve, people have asked if it's de-seeded because I obviously don't like the seeds. But I think having to de-seed them is then I'm going to charge more for it, because for me to de-seed them is just like, it's going to be a nightmare. And I don't have an issue with the seeds. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So basically, this is last year's guavas, just so you know. So I peel them. Okay, so as I harvest them, I peel them. I see to de-seed this, to sit here and take all these seeds out is going to be an absolute nightmare. And then I feel like I'm just going to be wasting my time. So I'm not actually going to do something like that. I don't have a problem. We eat it, so I don't have a problem with it. So I peel these. So as I harvest, I peel them. And because I can't leave them sitting, because then they start turning very quickly, and then obviously fruit flies and the smell of guavas, you know, after a while, not so great. So so what I do is I peel them, and once I've peeled them, I don't halve them. Actually, these ones are quite small, so most of them are not. If they're big, then I halve them. Otherwise, because they were quite small, but I've got so many of them. Which way am I going? That way. So, I mean, it was small, but it was ripe. Okay, so I just peel them, pack them into a bag, to as many as I can get into a bag, and then I pop it in the deep freeze, and they're perfectly fine. So, and then from because I mean, you could still eat them like this after being defrosted and all the rest of it. But again, there's so much that you won't be able to eat enough of, you know, you won't be able to get through them quick enough without making your tummy work too much as well. So it's best to just, I just turn it into a preserve. You can make guava jam if you really wanted to. I'm not not particularly into guava jam or peach jam. I'm quite happy to have a preserve. My guava preserve I make with a sweet muscadel wine. So, and it goes really, really nicely with it. I'm not going to do that with the peaches though. So with the peaches, I'm just going to do a basic sugar syrup. Okay. So, so because I'm doing the peaches, I thought I might as well just do the guavas that I had put in my deep freeze. And I took them out last night. They defrosted. We're going to cook them in the syrup for 5 minutes max. We're not gonna. We don't really want to cook them. Okay, we want to keep the. I don't want them to turn to mush or anything. We want to keep them nice and whole and stuff like that. Then basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna bottle it, and then later you can have it immediately, I suppose, or you can have it, you know, if you bottle the whole lot, then you can have them over time, you know, with some ice cream or on its own, or the joys of doing this yourself is probably way healthier, and there's a lot more benefits to it, because this is like homegrown. This, not so much. This is homegrown. This is come from my background, my backyard. Picked myself, peeled myself, popped in the deep freeze to because I can't keep up with the harvesting, so it's easier for me to so the reason why I harvest and then deep freeze is because harvesting, that tree fruits for about 2 months non-stop, and I can't do small batches of preserving. It's much better to have it bulk and do it one time. So that's why I peel into the deep freeze and leave it there until I'm ready to preserve, and then when I'm ready to preserve, I take them out, and then obviously I do this. So yes, I mean, how awesome that you can actually freeze guavas. So if you land up buying guavas at a vegetable store, a big box, when they're in season, which is round about winter, then you can do exactly the same thing. So we like buying things. So you can do a similar thing with strawberries and do strawberry jam or blueberry jam. So you can make it into a jam rather than a preserve. But yeah, like if ever you want to buy stuff, you can buy it in bulk. Same like I've got a different recipe. Maybe I need to do that live one day. I have a different recipe to preserve beetroot. So again, when it's in abundance and it's dirt cheap and we buy hordes of it, it's a real effort. But once it's done, then you've got jars for days of like pickled beetroot. And you can do the same with pickles. You can do it with jalapenos, because that's what I do with my husband. When he wants jalapenos, he buys a box of jalapenos, then we pickle it. So yeah, when we do that again, I'll probably do exactly what I've done now, where I'm like, oh, what's on schedule is not going to happen, because I have to get this done, otherwise it's going to go off. So I need to do it, and I may as well do it live. So that's my thinking behind it anyway. Okay, so what I'm going to do is first off, I'm going to so this is quite a big batch of guavas. You can see it's quite huge, whereas this is not as many peaches, but I still need to do it. I almost feel like you should have bought 2 boxes to make it worth my while. I am going to use a big pot for the guavas, and then a medium-sized pot for the peaches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, for the guavas, so we're going to do what, probably 2 cups of sugar to 3 cups of water, plus, no wait, I'm going to say 2 cups of sugar to 2 cups of water and 1 cup of muscadel for the guavas. Okay, I'm just going to swap over to my other cat one. Let me just get my pots. This should be big enough, because it's not going to, I'm literally going to boil it in the sugar, the syrup, for like 5 minutes, and then after that we're going to bottle. So it's not going to need to be in here for very long. So I'm going to say, I'm going to use my white caster sugar for this, for the guavas. I'm going to say 2 cups. It should be enough. I need enough liquid. So, okay. So that is my bottles. Now I'll explain bottles now. Okay. I'm just wondering. So I need to, this is going to take up probably 4, maybe 5 jars. And obviously we want to put more of this than the sauce. So that's why I'm just trying to work out. I really do wing it sometimes, but it is basically a ratio of 2 to 1. So if you put 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of sugar, you must put 2 cups of water. So that's pretty much how it works. So I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to do 3 cups of sugar, because I'm a bit worried that I'm not going to have enough juice, you know, the syrup. So I'm going to do 3 cups of sugar, and then I'm going to do 2 cups of water and 2 cups of the muscadel. This is the thing when I don't actually follow recipes, and these are kind of just my own made up recipes that work. So it doesn't always work out the same. If I had more, obviously the more fruit you have, the more syrup you might need to make. And then I'm going to do two this it's a dessert wine, and it's super sweet. But it just gives the guavas a really delicious taste. So I'm going to do that, but I'm not doing this with the peaches. I'm going to do the peaches in a normal. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a brown sugar. I'm going to make a brown sugar syrup for the peaches. So I'm just going to move over to my other camera so that you can see what I'm going to do there. So I'm going to pop this, actually, I want to bring it to the boil. So I'm going to put it on one of the bigger stoves to bring it to the boil. Let's just go like this. Oh. So I'm just going to do that. Try and bring it to the boil. Use a wooden spoon to mix it up. Make sure that your sugar has been mixed in with the liquids before it starts boiling, or else the sugar is going to burn at the bottom, which is obviously not ideal. Okay. So much like making fudge, really, where you need to mix in the sugar in the liquid so that it doesn't burn. But we're not going to get into fudge or soften stage or anything like that. We're just going to we want to that's why now I'm just wondering if we'll put an extra, what did we say, 3 sugars, 3 to 1, 2 waters to 1 sugar. So I've done 3 sugars, so I need to do 2, 4, 6. And I've done 2, 4. So I'm going to actually do 1 more water and 1 more of the muscadel. Then that will make the ratio correct. Because basically what you're going to do is you're going to boil it and reduce it so that it becomes a syrup. And yeah, that works out perfect because now that's finished. And then, if you have leftover syrup, you can always bottle that and use it another time. So I'm going to leave that to come to the boil. And then I'm going to just quickly explain to you the whole thing with bottling while I am peeling the peaches. So when you want to bottle, to preserve, and you want it to bottle, what you do is you get a whole bunch of console jars, or if you've been collecting jars, because you know that's what I do. So when you buy preserves or any kind of sauces or whatever that are in glass jars, I'm specifically saying glass jars, not plastic jars, glass jars with metal lids, okay, they are perfect for preserving. So what you do is you collect all these jars, and then you go, oh, I know what to do with all these jars, and then you go buy a massive box of peaches, right? And then you're like, oh, I can't eat all these peaches. So what do? You preserve them. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your jars, you're going to go wash them nicely with soap, really hot soapy water, and sure these are right. Really hot soapy water, and then you're going to rinse them out nice and so that there's no more, you know, please make sure you rinse them out properly. You wash the, hello, you wash the jar and the lid thoroughly and rinse it out thoroughly. Then if you have, I've got an electric pressure cooker, which is amazing for doing bottling foods. But if you don't have one, okay, which I didn't always have this. My husband only bought it now in the last 2 years because we started doing a lot of bottling, because he started making his own pasta sauces and then I bottle it for him. So basically what you do is you make sure everything's washed really nice and clean in really hot soapy water, and then rinse it nicely in hot water. Then what you're going to do, if you don't have a electric pressure cooker, is you're going to take the biggest pot that you have. So you know, obviously you need to try and get, so like we have a medium-sized jar that we use, and so obviously depending on the size of the jar will depend on how many bottles you can get into your big pot or into your pressure cooker. Okay, I'm not too sure about using an old-fashioned pressure cooker that goes on the stove to do this, because I'm terrified of those pressure cookers. So yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not going to suggest that. I'm going to say either do it in a really large pot or in electric pressure cooker. So what we do is in a really large pot, you're going to put your now cleaned jars with the lids into a pot of water. You're going to make sure that the water is in the jar full. So if you stand in your jars up, make sure you've poured water into all the jars so that they are full, and then all around, so that basically the jars are sitting full submerged in water. Pop a lid on there. If your jars are too big and you can't get them to be standing up, you can lie them down so long as there's water everywhere. Put them on the stove and you boil it for 10 minutes. You must make sure that your jars have been boiled for at least 10 minutes. And that is sterilizing your bottles. When you take your jars out, you use tongs. Don't use your fingers, because your fingers are going to de-sterilize it. It won't be sterile anymore. So you are not to touch it with your hands, the inside of your jar. But they're going to be super hot, so it's better to use tongs and a cloth and everything. Okay, so here's I need to stop here just so that you can see. So this peach is it's bruised, and don't use it. Okay, it's going to taint the rest of your peaches or your whatever fruit that you are. You can do what we're doing today with the peaches, with pretty much pears you can do in port. So the same thing as I'm doing with the guavas, you do it with port. But yeah, that's for a simple sugar syrup for preserving fruit. This is basically what you do. So yeah, so you're going to boil your jars for about 10 minutes, and then you're going to leave them until you're ready to use them inside that hot water. Okay, when you're ready to use them, you're going to use tongs to get them out, and you're not going to use your fingers. Do not, I can't stress it enough, do not put your fingers inside the jar, as then it's no longer sterilized. And then what will happen is that your fruit will go off, your preserve will go off. So then you will, which I'll do now as well, because it's really not what's a long process is the prepping of all of it. not the boiling and sterilizing and stuff. So once all your jars are ready and your preserve is ready to be bottled, you'll bottle it. You'll empty the hot water out of your sterilized bottles, pour all your fruit and stuff and your syrup in there, close it with your jar, with your lid, and then you're going to put it back into the hot water, upside down. You're going to boil it for a further 10 minutes. You're going to switch it off, and you're going to leave it overnight to go cold on its own. And the next morning, the lid of your jar is going to suck in, and when it's sucked in, then you know it is definitely sealed, and that it won't. Oh, okay. So we are just hold on. We are boiling. So I just want to switch over quick. Okay. So I'm going to move over to this side because I don't want it to be burning or anything like that. I just want it to boil so that it can reduce. So I needed it to get to the boiling point. Okay. So now I'm just going to leave this to reduce so that it can become a thick syrup. You don't want to do it at this stage because it's too liquidy. So now I need to just let it boil so that it can reduce to a thick syrup. Okay, so basically your bottles are going to be tipped upside down, full. You're going to boil it for 10 minutes. You're going to switch. If you've got more to do, then you can take them out after the 10 minutes and just leave them aside. They should suck in. But if your lid lands up being like that instead of like that, and it doesn't get sucked in, that means it hasn't sealed. And if it's not sealed, you won't be able to keep that, whatever's inside there, for months. Like we keep. I've got beetroot sealed like that that's been in the cupboard for more than 6 months, and it's perfectly fine when we open it. So it's very important that it gets sealed properly, and that you don't use bad pieces. So this one only has a piece that's bad, whereas this whole peach is not great. We're just gonna. I'm just doing these into little slices. This is going to be really delicious with some nice vanilla ice cream, especially for these really hot winter days. In fact, I thought I had guava preserve the other day, and we had bought some nice new vanilla ice cream, and I was like, oh, let's have some guava preserve. And I actually didn't have any. So I was like, oh. So yeah, it's quite cool now that I'm gonna make, because then we can have over the weekend, which is really nice. But this is really delicious, you know, especially if you look, obviously it's nicer with the sugar syrup, right? Because we're making it so that you can eat it with, you know, with ice cream and that kind of stuff. And to a certain point, yes, it's got sugar in it and and you know, but you're not going to eat it straight from the jar. I'm going to say, if you want to eat it so that you can preserve your peaches or your guavas, but you don't want the sugar, then and I think you can do it in water, so you can preserve it in water. But I think, you see, so what I know is, like, if you pick cherries or strawberries, and when you pick them and you eat them, they're sweet. But give them a couple of days and they're no longer sweet, and they become acidic or tarty, okay? And if you're going to make a jam out of it or whatever, you're not going to not put sugar in it. Otherwise, no one's going to eat it, and you're going to waste your time. But it's just better if you can do it yourself, as opposed to, you know, buying, you know, mass-produced preserves and jams and stuff like that, because you kind of know exactly what's in it, and there's no additives or anything like that. You know exactly, oh, okay, it's just literally sugar and water. There's nothing else, and you know that your peaches or your fruit or whatever it is that you've gotten is like freshly picked, and there's nothing in them either. So these are really, really juicy. So like with these ones, because now what's going to happen is, because they're super juicy, their juices are going to mix in nicely with the syrup that I'm going to make for them. So I'm wanting to do this particular, these peaches with a brown sugar to give it a bit of flavor. So I'm going to use probably a mix of light, the what's it called now, the dark wet sugar that I used for the fudge that I made. I've got quite a lot of it, so I'm quite happy to actually use it for something. So my sugar is now on a low boil simmer, so that it can just reduce until it's a nice thick syrup. And yeah, just, like if there's just one little piece that's bruised, just cut that bruised piece out. You don't want that in your mix. You don't want the bad pieces of the fruit. So like here, this one is, well, it's okay for you to eat that right now in that moment. It's not going to be so great if you put it in your preserve pot. If there is anything that you would like me to test out or try or make, or just put it in the comments, and then I will have a look and see. Like a customer who asked me to make coconut chocolate cake, and I was like, what? Okay, I've never made that before, and I found the most amazing recipe. So it's just, it makes it for fun. I'm using a super sharp knife. I actually sharpened it just before we started so that I could peel it nicely. I kind of want as much juices going in here as possible. I don't really want it to be anywhere else. You want to keep those juices. I think if you do it in water, I'm just trying to think now. What you could do it is not do it in straight water. See, I don't particularly want to put it in another juice, because that might have some kind of preserve in it. I want to keep it as natural as possible, I suppose. I say this when I'm doing it with wine, but I think I actually need to. I'm not a port fan, but I know that if you do pears and port, it's quite nice. So maybe one day I'll do that. But and when I do if we do jalapenos and all of that, I'll be sure to do it live as well. Although I might do a lot of the prep work off camera, because it can be quite tedious and tiresome. Sure. So yeah, I think like you could definitely just either do it in a sugar syrup, or you could do it possibly in just water, boiled water, and then you just boil it up for 5 minutes in water, and then you just make sure that you use that same water to as as your liquid for inside your jar. And then that way, I suppose you could eat it straight from the jar if you wanted to, you know. I would say that that's probably what they did back in the day, you know, in places overseas and that where and I think they still do it actually. A lot of them still do, like Russia and all of that. They still do a lot of preserves. Hungary, they preserve a lot of their food for winter. So, because then it doesn't grow in winter and they don't get it. So they do a lot of preserves then. We're very lucky in summer. We have fruit all year round. I think South Africans don't realize how lucky we are that we get fruit all year round. And, you know, obviously depending on the season, but yeah, I mean, I know in a lot of overseas countries, it's a lot doesn't grow there, probably because of the winter months, because it's longer. You can do the same thing with pineapple. If you wanted a pineapple preserve, you can do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to pop this back into here because I'm going to pop this into my garden because it will be good compost for my garden. And all these juices will definitely bring the bees. Okay, so now we've got that. We've got our guava preserve. Guavas, I'm not going to cut up the guavas. I'm going to leave them whole because they're small. If they were bigger guavas, I would halve them. They're not. So, right. So from here, I'm going to make my syrup for, well, that's busy going. I'm going to make my syrup for the peaches. I'm going to do a mix of the two brown sugars. Muscovado. Because this has got quite a strong caramel kind of flavor to it. So, which is why I kind of, because I'm not doing like I'm doing with the guavas with the muscadel, I just want to give it a flavor. Well, for it to bring out the peach flavors, I feel like this will bring out the peach flavors. So I'm going to do a combination of these two. I'm going to do 2 cups of sugar to 4 cups of water. 5 cups of water. 2 cups, 3 to 1. 2, 4. No, it's 4. 4 cups of water. 2 cups of water for every cup. 3, 4. Clearly my brain is not thinking with maths at the moment. I can't seem to work that one out. Yeah. And then we're going to do the 4 cups of water. Okay. I'm just going to give it a mix so that it's not dry. And then we're going to pop that on the stove too. I'm going to bring that on to boil as well. So you're not going to make it like super thick syrupy, but you just want it a little bit more reduced and not as thin. It's such a thin liquid. I feel like this is not oily enough. So we're going to leave those two to boil and do their thing. In the meantime, I'm going to show you what's potting in the pot. I think I'm so clever. With the things that I say. Okay. So, right. So my pot is here that has been boiling. And I use that. But now, because it's a pressure cooker, I'm going to let steam out before I open it. And it's steaming. Because I can't open it before all the steam is gone. If you're using a pressure cooker, you need to release all the steam before you can open it, or else it will blow up in your face. Like, no joke. I don't know how many jars I'm going to need to prepare, so I'm going to put some more. I've done 5. I'm going to put another 5 in because I don't know how many I'm going to need. So I just use these kind of jars. You can see these are the jars that I bought from Greenland 5 in December. And now I will just use them now again. Because why go buy more? Why should I buy more? I don't see why I should buy more. So, steam is almost out. How's this going? Just checking. Okay, that's boiling a little bit more. Just wait for the I actually want to taste this. There is some serious juice going on there. The little tarty though. Okay, come on, steam. So I'm gonna, pull this off. This should be good to go. Right. You'll see it's still boiling. So I'm going to pull these out. I need to get myself some proper tongs for this kind of thing, but this does work. So you'll see I'm going to pour all of that out. And I'm not touching the inside. First of all, this is super hot, right? You're gonna burn yourself if you do touch it. And just be careful of the steam, because even the steam, you can get steam burnt because it's super hot. And the jars and their lids are inside here. I'm just checking on the syrup. Now we've got 10 more. Okay. So one more jar. And then I'm going to just take the lids out. Ooh, super hot. And now they're making me fish for them. Okay, so while this is still super, hot like this, so the water in this pressure cooker, unless I switch it off at the plug, is going to stay hot. It doesn't cool down unless you switch it off at the plug. Basically, it keeps it boiled. Okay, so the sugars are boiling and they are reducing. I'll show you now where they're at. I'm going to get it to simmer as opposed to boiling. Okay, so then I'm going to pop these into here. So I'm going to try and put hot water in there first so that it can go down. No, because it's super hot, I'm just going to use the tongs. So what I do is I normally put the jars in first, and then I pop the lids in afterwards. I'm probably going to get what? 5 jars of guavas and possibly 4 jars or 3 jars of peaches. But again, it all depends on how much space your fruit takes up in your thing. Right, so we're going to pop those in. Should be sterilized as well. Also, make sure you don't touch them on the inside, because then it will no longer be sterile. I'll pop that in there. So I use the pressure cooker because it goes super quickly, as opposed to doing it. So I'll put that over there for space. Jars will keep here. Super hot. Right, let's have a look at what my syrups are doing. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, so it's not, like I say, it's not super thick, but it's slightly reduced. And I'm going to pop the guavas into the guava batch. And I'm going to pop the peaches into the peaches. Just don't want to burn myself. Just pouring in. Okay. We're just going to boil that for about 5 minutes, like that. And obviously the pectin from the fruit is going to make the syrup even thicker. So when you make jams, you need pectin. And the way to get pectin is from crab apples or apples. Preferably from Granny Smith, the green apples. Pop that here. Going to boil it up for about 5 minutes, just so that it can absorb all the syrup can take on the flavors of the fruit as well. Okay, and my pressure cooker is cooking quite nicely. Here it's bubbling away. So I'm just going to turn the heat up a bit. 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to give 5 minutes. Like this. You can see that the guava are all they're like bite size. If they were bigger. What other fruits can you do this with? I'm going to say probably you could do bottled apples if you really like bottled apples. And then I would do it as a sugar syrup with some cinnamon and cloves. That's how I would do it with apples. If you wanted an apple preserve, that would work perfectly, I think, if you were going to use it for then like an apple pie or something. You can do pineapples, same way as I'm doing the peaches, or you can just do straight white sugar syrup for pineapples. Pears, you can do also just plain sugar syrup, or you can do it with port, like I'm doing with the guavas with the muscadel. I wouldn't preserve strawberries and blueberries. I would make jam out of it. I would rather make jam out of that. You're not going to preserve grapes. Ugh, not really. I suppose you could do mixed fruit. Yeah, because I mean, if you think about when you buy fruit preserve, what are the ones that you normally buy? It's normally peaches, pears, apples. Wouldn't really do it with bananas because bananas go black. You wouldn't do it, obviously, if you're gonna use lemons and oranges. You're gonna make it into a jam, like into a marmalade, rather than preserving it. What else? What other fruits are there that we eat? Now I'm like in my mind, I'm walking down the aisle of the grocery store, trying to think of all the different fruits, grapes and stuff. I wouldn't really preserve. I'd rather make wine out of that, but I've never made wine, so that's not going to happen. And yeah, I need like a vineyard to be able to do that. So yeah, definitely blueberries and strawberries and raspberries. I would rather make coolings out of that, or you know, as fillers for cakes, or a jam. Plums as well, I would say more like I actually have done plums and we haven't had it yet, and I think the next time we have a cheese board we need to bring out the plums, because I think we keep forgetting about the plums. I have made a plum preserve that would be fantastic with like camembert or brie, something like that. You would be able to do this with figs, but you can also make fig jam. My favorite is fig jam, but you can do it as a fig preserve, but then I think you do it with the skin on. No, I think you just peel it so that it doesn't fall apart. And then you can make a preserve, you can make a jam. Also, again, you can do that with a alcohol base, or you can do it just in a syrup. Okay, our 5 minutes are up. Peaches are done. Peaches are done. I'm going to be moving that over. I just kind of want that to boil up a bit. Although I do think it will be fine. I'm going to leave the guavas downstairs as well. Okay, so let's just do the peaches first. And I'm just going to leave the guavas to soak in the juices a little longer. And then we're going to use the ladle because we don't want to burn. And a cloth. These are coolish, but this is still obviously hot. So we're going to do it very gently. Try not to mess. So what I try to do is get as many peaches or, you know, fruit pieces into the jar before filling it up with the syrup. Because you want as much fruit pieces in here as possible. And then I'm just going to use a chopstick or a bamboo stick just to push them down. You want it to be literally just at the top, so it's just touching the top. And then you fill all your jars first. Yeah, I think we're probably going to get 3, maybe 4 peaches. And then you can just top it up with syrup. It's best to do these things when it's hot like this, because then it will seal more. You're still going to boil it anyway for it to seal, but it just seals better if this is already hot. Then you boil it and then it seals properly. If you let everything cool down, it's not going to seal. With all the heat in that's what makes it seal. See if we can get one more peach in there. This is very, 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 very hot, so just be careful. You can do it so that your syrup is thicker if you want it thicker, but then if you want it thicker, then you'll have to add more sugar. And I don't particularly want to have it too much sugar. I just want it enough to preserve flavors and stuff and enhance flavors rather than making, you know, syrup. So I'm not making syrup, I'm making a preserve. So let's see if I can get in. I don't have enough for another jar. I don't want to try and get, this is why you kind of want to squeeze in as much as you can of the peaches or fruit before you actually put the syrup in, because the syrup also takes space, right? But that is just there to help preserve. Oh, now I'm messing. Again, just don't stick your fingers inside, because it's going to take it's going to de-sterilize it. I think I'm going to just empty a little bit of juices out of that one. So I can get in it some more peaches here. I literally have like a few peaches that I just want to squeeze in here into each jar. Because also what's happening is the syrup makes the peaches float, which is also why it's an illusion that it's full when it's not. Okay. And then I'll just top this one up as well. Super hot. You can see how it's floating. So that's why I'd rather empty some of the syrup out. And then put more peaches in rather. Just get these last few in. So any kind of preserving as well, whether it's a sauce or something like this, you don't want bubbles. Air bubbles will obviously, with having air bubbles, it will get trapped and it can get it will then, I want to say get infected. It doesn't get infected, but it can then make everything go bad because it's air that was trapped. So if you have a skewer or a a chopstick, then just push it down like this to release any bubbles that might be in here. If I'm doing sauces and something that's really thick, I do this, as well as I'm going to do it now just so you can see. But when I do sauces again, I'll do it live. I do this and I just to get all the bubbles up. So you don't want those air bubbles in there. As you can see, it's right to the top. And then close it as tight as you can by hand. And you can't see it on these ones. You get so like the little purity bottles, their lids come with a little, like you can actually click the lid, and it's got a middle center that you can push down and pops up again. So when it's sealed, that little bit, that center bit sucks in, then you know it's sealed. If it's popped up, then you know then more than likely whatever's inside is off. And that goes for stuff that you buy as well. So if you buy something and your tin or your bottle lid is popped up like this, or your tin has popped up like it, be warned, it's probably off. Probably gone off. So just sitting here, it will start to suck in, but you want to make sure it does, because obviously you're not going to eat this within the next, 2 days, all of it. So what you're going to keep it, you're going to give it, give it away. Fantastic gifts to, if you make and you want to share with, so, and I promised a friend that she could have the guavas to preserve, because she started preserving, and now I've gone and used the guavas. But it's fine. I told her that she must help me harvest the tree this year, and she can have whatever she harvests, because there's no way that I'm going to be able to I'll probably end up harvesting for her as well. I honestly don't have the time to sit and harvest like that, because it's so much. Could take like a 30 minutes to an hour of your day every day while it's fruiting, to harvest every day, to make sure you don't lose any. Okay, so now my next lot of bottles are also ready. They've just finished, and I've still got syrup in here. And yeah, you can either keep your syrup for something later, or you can, if you've got a lot, you can use it for another time that you do this. But the whole thing with something like this is that you do a whole lot and then you won't do it for a long time. So okay. Then the guavas. So I'm just going to pop these over to the side here. Ooh. Hot, hot, hot. Hot, hot, hot. And then I'm just going to pull out my last lot of jars, because I need them now. So I've got, 6 jars. I might need to boil up some more. Okay, so we have to open up. Let's see out. I'd say if you do a big preserve or something like that, if you want to put on like peas or something like that, your syrup needs to be much thicker, almost like a jam. So you'd have big chunks of big nutty jam kind of texture. I don't actually know if you can hear the steaming. Oh, I can actually do this one. So I'm going to try and get all the guavas in, and then I'll pour the juices in afterwards, so that I can get as many guavas into here as possible. So that's how we're going to do it now. We're just going to push them in. put more in. Just another 1 or 2. And then we'll fill it up with the syrup. My recommendation is not to have this within, say, a week or 2 of making it. I would say rather, I mean, it's still delicious, but I would say at least just give it a week or 2 before actually opening it the first time. Give it some time to sit and soak in the juices. So again, you would have boiled your bottles. If you don't have a pressure cooker, you would have boiled your bottles in hot water for 10 minutes in a really large pot. What I'm going to do now, because I need to put the jars back in full now, you can't have all the water. Ideally, any jars that have got labels on, you would have taken the labels off. Not kept them on, like I have. But I'm going to get rid of this hot water, because now it will be too much. Because you're going to now put them back in, like that. And I'm just going to use the hot water, gray water, for my dishes. To clean my dishes. It's super hot. So you can use the same water again to then seal them, but obviously you'll have to put less water in, because your jars are full. Oh, I didn't boil that one. And yeah, you have to boil it for those 10 minutes or whatever it is. You can't just stick it in the hot water and then go, oh, it's sterilized. It's not how it works. It's got to be boiled. Sterilizing in boiling water without touching the inside of anything can last up to 24 hours. But with stuff like this, I would prefer to just, you know, do it straight away. Especially if you're making, you know, say for your if you've got a child and you're making, you can do your own purities and preserve it same way. Make sure you boil your jars, make sure they get tightened properly and they are sterilized properly. You cannot, this jar has been cleaned but not sterilized in the hot water. Don't go put it in this. It needs to be sterilized first. It will go, whatever you want to preserve in there, it's going to go off if you do that. And give it 2 weeks and it will be off, not even. One of the other things I like to do is pickled pepper juice. If I grow them myself, and I've been struggling, I used to grow them myself and pickle them. So I'm attempting to do that again, and then you can pickle them, which is really, really awesome. You can get your hands on pepper juice to pickle. Oh, look at that. I'm going to need another jar. Yeah, probably going to need one more jar. Or what I might just do is, because I don't think it will be a full jar. Let's see what I can get in here. Yeah, it won't be a full jar. So what I'm going to do is whatever's left over, I'm going to put it into a tub, into the fridge, so that if I can't get any more in here, I'm going to try and squeeze as much as I can in here. Push them down and squeeze them in. This is a little bit more tricky because they're whole, but I would say, if you know, it would obviously be a little bit easier to get in more if they were halved. Yeah, if I'd halved them, it'd probably be a lot easier trying to get them in here. But they're soft from being boiled and stuff, so can I get any more in there? No, I don't think so. I can possibly get one more in here. So you can see at the end of the day, when you're trying to squeeze as many as you can in, you're actually not having a lot of syrup. The syrup is just literally there to, one, to give it a little bit of extra flavor and enhance flavors, but just to fill the empty space, because if there's empty space, it means that there's going to be air for it to germinate bacteria, which will then obviously make it gold. Yeah, so there's not enough here for me to make an extra jar, but there is enough here for me to just probably have 1 or 2 pieces to put it in. I'll just put it into a tub, into the fridge, and then we can have it with some ice cream later. Ice cream on a hot summer's day. Some guava or peach preserve. Yummy. Put one more in there. I think. Squeeze it in. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm just going to top them up with syrup. I've got quite a lot of syrup left, especially for this one. So, and because guava season's coming, I'm actually going to, I will prep a bottle for me to actually seal it and store it like I would this. So again, same thing. We want to kind of just any air bubbles. So if you poke it down like this, you'll see there's a whole lot of air bubbles. Even if you don't see the air bubbles at first, they do pop up. So basically what you're trying to do, and what you'll see when you do this, is that the water, the juices actually move, and then it becomes less, and then you're like, oh, I actually need to top that up. So tighten it as much as you can at this point. Okay, so just thinking now, one might be one too many, because it's going to be in the way. Okay. And some people like guavas, some people don't. I think there are more people who don't like guavas than people who do. I particularly love guavas. I don't like the smell when they're too ripe, but I do like guavas, especially like this. So one day when my fig tree is fruiting, I will make fig preserve and fig jam. That is my ultimate fruit. I love figs. Oh, this one I already did. Okay, so in my pot, I can only get 5 of these jars in at a time. Okay, but you want to make sure that once all your air bubbles are out and everything, that there is enough syrup that it's sitting above everything, because if it's below, what's on top is going to probably go off. So try and make it not so that. Okay, so now I'm possibly going to need to empty. I'm going to empty some more water because I think it's going to be empty enough. I'm just going to pop that on the side. So we're going to pop these in. And then, and as you go around, the water will get obviously fuller because these are full. But make sure that if you put your jars in, you want them, if you're going to put them where your lid's on top, make sure your water is covering them so that it is covering the seal of your jar. I'm actually just going to take the camera and show it to you. So you want it to look like that, so you can see the water is over the jar. You see? So it's covering the jar completely. So if you were doing this in a pot and you were boiling it on the stove, you would do the same thing. I normally put them upside down in the stove because my jars are sometimes too big and my pot is not deep enough. So I turn them upside down so that this part is underwater. The bottom of the jar doesn't need to be underwater, but the actual lid, the seal part, needs to be under the water so that it can be seal. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And then I'm going to pop the lid back on. So you would do the same thing with your pot. So you would have, just to repeat, you would have taken the largest pot that you have, put as many washed, cleaned, rinsed out jars and lids inside there as possible, all standing up if they're small, okay, with water inside, right to the top, boil for 10 minutes so that they're sterilized. Once everything is ready to preserve, you take them out one by one, empty all the water, pour all your stuff in, make sure that you put in your fruit or vegetable first, then the rest of your liquid, because you want to get as many pieces of fruit and stuff inside your jar as possible. And then you top it up with your syrup or whatever your preserved liquid is. And then you will close it, and then you'll put it back into the hot water. That is key, that you put it back into the hot water. If it's large jars, so like when I make beetroot, I use really, really large jars, and they're too big for my pots to stand up. Well, if they stand up, they stick out. So then I place them upside down in the hot water so that this part is submerged. This part doesn't need to be submerged, but this part does. So I put it in like that for 10 minutes. If I have a whole lot, I do 10 minutes, take them out, 10 minutes, take them out. Otherwise, I just leave them there to cool down in that hot water, and then it will seal. But you'll see as it starts to cool down, this lid will start to suck in. But make sure, I've learned the hard way, the key is to do the sterilization and then boil once you've done. So once you've done all of this, you boil it again for 10 minutes, take it out. Then you leave it to cool until it's sealed, which is generally 24 hours. Once it's cold, then it will go and it will suck in. And it's as simple as that, actually. Simple as that. So that is my guava and my guavas and my where's the camera? My guavas and my peaches, my dessert peaches. I'm gonna switch this on so that it can do its thing. When that's done, I'll put the next lot in. But yeah, there we go. Done, simple, easy. You can do it with many different fruits. You can even do it as a fruit cocktail, I suppose, depending on the fruits that you have. I'm going to say you can do it with hard fruits, not soft fruits. So like peaches, plums, nectarines, apples, guavas, pineapples. I wouldn't suggest bananas because they go black. I wouldn't do strawberries and berries. I would rather make jams out of that. Citrus fruit, I would also rather make jams out of that than a preserve like this, because I don't think you can make it too much of it. You could, I suppose, make it as a preserve. Never tried citrus though. I have an orange tree, so you never know, I might land up doing one. But I think I'll end up making marmalade because I've got a lemon tree and an orange tree. And between the two, if they start to fruit all at once, I'm going to end up making marmalade, which is something I don't eat. But yeah, we will see. Anyway, guys, this is me. I will see you next week, Wednesday. For now, we're still on one episode a week until I can get back into the swing of things and have things planned. But for now, I'll do one a week, and I'll see you next week, Wednesday, same time. Have a super duper weekend, and I'll see you all then. Bye.